first, oh my God, we are very quickly approaching the end of the year. We've got today's session, and we've got one more session with the DoCrew on Monday mornings before 2026 starts. And we're going to have a whole slew of great topics to discuss as we enter 2026, including we've confirmed with the investigator for DBPR. He's coming in on, I believe it's, if I remember correctly, the first Monday in February. So we're doing some things leading up to that as well. We've been talking about doing, some of your marketing. Last Monday, we talked about doing reels and shorts and how to maybe do some recordings at builders models, which I think is a great idea. But I wanted to talk today. I want to expand on that as well because social media is not going away. It is a great tool for us to use as long as you don't get sucked into the vortex and start wasting a lot of time in there. You want to be able to implement a good marketing plan. And the marketing plan is pretty simple and doesn't need to be complex. You can use your calendar. You don't need a special form. Just as I showed you with a business plan model, you don't need an elaborate plan. You just need to have a plan. And so your marketing plan should consist of several different things. You should be doing videos. Number one, I mean, videos are definitely a key thing to be doing because you don't have to spend money marketing yourself in order for those videos to bring you leads. And so you have to be able to be consistent with it, though. You have to be able to answer the public's questions. And we talked about answerthepublic.com, right? Hopefully you guys have all gone there and checked it out and maybe started to implement some things, which is a great resource to use. But there's other things that you could be doing as well. You could be doing some mail out. We're still utilizing postcards and mail outs, and they have QR codes in them directing them to cash offers, a cash offer link, so that they can see the value of their home and get cash offers, and it has been generating leads for us. But you probably get stuck on, well, what am I going to record? What am I going to video? It's great that I can go shoot videos at a builder's model. And that is really important. I think the builder's model is something that, I mean, there's so many of them. And with the incentives that the builders are offering right now is a great tool to use to attract buyers. And attracting buyers right now is not a bad idea. You still want to go after listings, but buyers are definitely probably easier to close a transaction with right now than a seller because things are not selling so quickly, and you've got to be really aggressive with the seller, and the sellers are not there yet mentally to where they'll do what they need to do to get their property sold. And so you should put on your calendar, and whatever calendar you're using, but create a task for yourself. Block out a certain time frame, maybe even every day, right, to create one short video. And now one of the things that I just learned over the weekend is that Reels now is accommodating videos of any length. All right, so you don't have to keep it to a minute or a minute and a half, whatever it was. I think it went from a minute to a minute and a half. And now it's, I got a prompt over the weekend saying, hey, your reels can be as long as you want. And it doesn't have to be vertical. It could be horizontal. It could be vertical, whatever. So now I think in competing with YouTube, their shorts, they're allowing for 3-minute shorts now. So I think they're competing with each other, right, to get the video context. And I'm like, well, look, if you're creating a video for one, you can use it on both. Don't let it go to waste. Implement it, put it to use so that you can get more views. But if you block out, probably 30 minutes a day to just go ahead and and create a video. And you're probably wondering, well, what are we going to talk about? What's the topic? So I actually have a list of 30 questions in 30 days. And I think it's really good because it's just kind of it's a good process to um, answer people's questions. Really, is what it's doing. It's not you don't have to go to answer the public to find out what the good topics are. That is a great resource, and you'll probably want to do that for certain other videos, right? Maybe longer videos, because you want to do a long form. You also want to do plenty of short form, and be able to get those out there. Start building a YouTube channel if you haven't, because that is where people are going. YouTube is tied to Google. And while people are using AI more and more to search the internet, they are still using Google. All right. So Google is still, putting videos first when they answer. Well, actually, Google has their own AI that, responds to your request. Following that is a list of tips that they recommend. So I've got this list. And so, day one, I would just start asking, how's the market? Answer that question. Give a market update. I can say that in videos that I sent out via email, my market update emails were probably the best responded to emails, the best open rate when there was something in the subject line. And what I would do is include in that is a link to my video on YouTube. All right. The second day, day two, talk about inventory. Right now inventory is growing. Just talk about why is the inventory growing? Is it because there's a lack of buyers? Is it because, there's just more homes coming on? Is it, just come up with some answers on it to help explain to people, help them understand. Day three is, what is the first step in the home buying process? So how do people get started? Where do they get started? Just again, talk about that. It might be that, well, hey, you need to get pre-approved through a lender before you really get started, so you can see exactly what you can qualify for. That's huge. Day four would be remote work. How is that impacting prices? For a while, remote work was like expanding so quick, and people were looking. They had to be in a home that had a home office because of COVID. So many people were working from home, and people were relocating to Florida, and wanted that home office because they can work remotely. So how does that now impact today's market? I think there's less people shopping for homes with a home office. There are still people looking for that, but it may not be as plentiful. You've got to dig out the statistics, and again, use ChatGPT and say, "Hey, give me the latest statistics on people looking for homes with a home office." I'm sure if you put it in research mode, you're going to get some good responses from that, and have something good. And these don't have to be long videos. And you can use. We talked about captions as an app that you can use. There's several different apps. My favorite app to shoot these kind of videos is CapCut. Not CapCut. I'm sorry, that's an editing tool. Big View. Big View works really well because I can easily just upload my script into there and look into my phone and record myself, and I can be done in a few minutes. I edit it right there in the script, and then I can either download it to my laptop to upload it somewhere, or I can go straight from the app Big View to Facebook or to YouTube or wherever I want to send that to. So you want to be able to have an app that you're working with, right? Invest in a tool that's going to help you do this, and more of these tools that are coming out are capable of doing more than just one thing. So look at that and see how you can consolidate so you don't have all these different crazy apps. Day five, how will inflation affect the housing market? We just went through a period of some severe inflation, and now inflation is down, but we're still seeing, values rise. I think, for the most part, there's some stabilization in prices. And we've seen in certain markets, prices have actually started to decline. Where does it go from here? I don't know. I'd have yourself like, one of those little 8 balls, or get yourself a crystal ball that you can include in the video and say, my crystal ball says, well, it's pretty cloudy. I don't know. There's nobody that knows where we're going from here. So all we can do is speculate, but help people understand. Day 6, what's going on with mortgage rates? And if you need help with that, reach out to Brian. Brian will tell you what's going on with mortgage rates and give you some good facts and details about what to include in your video. Day 7, how will world political events or anything that's going on, currently in the world, how will that impact the housing market? Again, it's speculation, but people want to know. People want to know the future. That provides some comfort. Even, whether it comes true or not doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. Because, people just want to feel good about, well, the future holds better things for me. So that's the thought that they want to go with. So give them something positive about world events and how it's affecting the housing market. If there's a world event that's negatively impacting, well, maybe you don't talk about that. Find something that is positively impacting a world event and impacting the housing market, and use that. Day 8, are these home prices sustainable? And that's it. When we hit the crash in 2008, from about 2005 on, people were saying, "Oh man, these prices, they're not sustainable. They're, we're in a bubble. It's going to turn down. It's going to turn down." But yet it kept going up. It kept going up, and yes, there were some signs. And smart people got out of the market when they could. Others hung in there, and if you hung in there in the downturn, yeah, it would have eventually been okay at the end. And that's what you have to remind people, is that are these home prices sustainable? Well, if you get into the home that you want right now and values continue to drop, it's only a valuation on paper. It's only going to affect you if you have to sell in the near future. But a home is a long time investment. So if you hold on to this house for at least 10 years, you're going to be fine. The market will rebound and your home will be worth more in 10 years than it is today. So those are the things, you got to look at history. All right. Every downturn was followed by an upturn, and the upturn always far exceeded the last upturn. So, talk about those kind of facts. Day 9, how do I buy a home? People want to know. There's a lot of first-time home buyers out there. A lot of people that are renting that can't see the light at the end of the tunnel on how are they going to get either back into owning a home or owning their first home. So talk about that. Day 10, is now a good time to buy? Well, anytime is the right time to buy if you want to buy a home. If you're renting, you're throwing your money away. So there's no time like the present to be able to get into a home if you have the means to do so. Day 11, is now a good time to sell? Well, again, you got to find out what the bottom line is with the buyers and the sellers. What are they looking to achieve? Are they just looking to achieve, making money on the real estate, or are they looking to have a good home to secure? The seller, is the seller want to relocate? Does the seller want to downsize or upsize? You got to find their motivation. But yeah, now's a good time to sell. Absolutely. Even during the holidays, great time to sell. Okay. Day 12, what's happening with home prices? Well, I mean, it's, what is happening with home prices? Well, it depends. What market are you in? So you've got to be able to, show the evidence of that, hey, look, there's some markets where home prices have declined. And a good possibility is that they were on the market, but they were overpriced to begin with. So yeah, it appears that the prices are declining, but it's just, they're coming back into realistic numbers. Sellers, if they want to sell, they've got to, put their price at the right point. Day 13, what's the minimum down payment to buy a home? Okay. Again, if you're stuck on that, just simply reach out to Brian. But, there's 100% programs out there. There's 95% programs. There's 90%. There's 80%. Certainly 80% would be the better loan to value ratio because you can eliminate that PMI. But, every situation is different. So it just depends. Depends on their credit score. Depends on what they can get into. But this is why you start there. Okay. Uh, Day 14. What's going to happen with the whatever the season is market? What's going to happen in the next spring season? Where are we going to be at? Because, people are starting to think. If they're starting to think ahead into 2026, when are they going to list their home? Most people are not going to want to list during the holidays, even though it is still a good time to list. They're going to be waiting until like January, February to list because most people know that the spring season is usually a strong season to buy and sell real estate. 18. What's going to happen with home prices this year? Again, break out that crystal ball. All right, and show them the facts, the statistics. Maybe get some quotes from different people, different economists that are making predictions. And show contradicting predictions from economists. That's just that'll show that look, there is no one formula to know what's going on in the future, right? Um, Day 16. Should I update my house before I sell it? So we get this a lot. People want to know, well, what should I do? And usually, a coat of paint is probably one of the best things that people can do, right? It's probably the least amount of money to give it a whole fresh look, neutralize everything, without, going broke. Maybe it's not a good time to, if you're looking to sell, it's not a good time to do an upgrade or a master bathroom upgrade. You might want to leave that for the buyer to do and price your home accordingly, right? Because if you do a $50,000 upgrade on the kitchen, it's not going to increase your value by $50,000. In fact, some buyers may not like it. Maybe they want to do their own kitchen. So there's a lot of what ifs that can go into that. Day 17, what are the renovations with the biggest ROI? Well, I would say probably the roof, but do a little research on that and just come up with maybe the top 3 things that people can do to get their ROI, new roof, painting. Um, I can't even think of a third one. It just depends. I mean, if they got a 20-year-old HVAC system in their house, well, maybe upgrading the system. A lot of people don't want to pay for the upgrades because like, well, it's still working, it's doing its job. So why do I want to spend that kind of money? Well, that's just it. You've got to make those suggestions, but talk about this and see what might be the biggest ROI for them. Day 18. How much do I need the budget closing costs? So get the local data, have a percentage. It might be like 3.5% of the sale price might be what it is. I can't even think of what it is off the top of my head, but it's probably somewhere between 3 and 4%, and it depends too. I mean, are they buying a new build? Well, if they're buying a new build, they're paying for all closing costs. They're not splitting it with the seller. So you've got to know that. And it explains the difference, right? People don't understand. People when they go from selling their home and they're paying closing costs with the buyer, and now they're going to buy from there, and it's like, why am I paying all these closing costs? So have that discussion. Day 19. Should I wait to buy or sell? Well, that depends, right? Come up with different scenarios on whether right now would be the best time or why they should wait because there are sometimes there are good reasons for people to wait. If they're looking to sell but they want to get in a new construction, well, they might need to come up with a plan on how they can buy and sell at the same time, or buy something and then wait to sell their home when the house is ready to getting closer to being ready. Because if they're buying a new home now, they may not know exactly when they're going to close in 3 to 6 months from now, right? And in some cases, nine. If they're getting in at the time of dirt, it might take 9 months for the house to be built. So, so you got to come up with different scenarios, and look, use ChatGPT for this. Let that do the research for you. It'll save you a ton of time. Day 20, renting versus buying, which is more affordable? And this is really a tough one, because I've seen some scenarios where it's in some cases it's just cheaper to rent today than it is to buy, because there's so much, everything is so expensive. I'd still rather own than rent, and there's still a lot more benefits to owning than renting. And of course, people are 40%, I think it's 40 times more wealthy than your typical renter. Okay. But when you break it down, if you can't afford the upkeep of the house, as you get into it, then it's going to be problematic. So that's where, when you're working with buyers, you want to be able to help them understand that you're going to be watching their budget with them and for them. All right. Because you don't want them to be overstretched. And I always tell buyers that, look, I want to get you into this house, but I want to make sure that, we're not exceeding your budget, because a year from now, I don't want the phone call from you saying, "Hey, Paul, I got to sell my house because I can't afford it." That's not the call I want. If anything, call me a year from now saying, "Paul, this house has been great, but yeah, man, it's just maybe it's too small for us now, and we'd rather go to a bigger one, and go that way." Um, than to find out, well, they can't afford the home, right? And I'm seeing it, working distressed properties. I'm seeing people that got in the last year or two, and they're already struggling to make their payments. So, getting them pre-approved and then sticking to their budget. And I know, some lenders are good. I know Brian is, as far as, trying to keep them in budget. But some lenders are quick to, like, they might come in and say, yeah, I want to, I feel comfortable with a $2,500 a month payment, and that might equate to, 450 purchase. But, then it's like, oh, I can get you approved up to 550, and not even talk about the monthly payment, but we can get you into something for 550. So now they come, wow, all right, lender says I can do 550. And so, that becomes problematic. So you as an agent should provide that service to help keep them in check, right? Um, Day 21, how do I win in a bidding war? Look, we don't see it as often anymore, but there's still going to be times where there's a bidding war, or maybe not a bidding war, but a multiple offer situation. Okay, where um, house comes on the market, it's a short sale, it's cheap price, and maybe they're offering at a much lower price than it should be, right? Bank might not even approve it there, but they're starting with a lower price, hoping that buyers will run up the price. And so you could have multiple offers on a situation like that, or you just aggressively price a listing that is good. Home is turnkey. It's a beautiful home, and people just want to sell it quickly. So they agree to price it aggressively because they have a ton of equity in it. And now all of a sudden you've got multiple buyers interested, and so you've got multiple offers coming in. It happens. It still happens, even in a down market. It still happens. Day 22. What should I avoid doing after applying for a mortgage? This is huge. Okay. We all know this is a problem area for buyers, as they start going furniture shopping. They decide to get a new car. They decide to, start buying different things, right? And they figure, well, what's the harm? but they put it on their credit card, or they just, they're writing big checks out of their checking account. They have to explain all that. They've got to explain away all the money that they spent from the time of application to the time of closing. So you want them to keep it all to a minimum until after closing. Really easy to explain that, right? Day 23, are we in a housing bubble? Again, refer to economists. All right, put the weight back on them. They're the ones that so-called predict the future as far as housing goes. But um, yeah, in 2008, we did burst the big bubble, and for many reasons. So far in 2025, going into 26, it doesn't appear to be any signs of a bubble, but there have been certain warning signs, and you have to look for them, right? You got to watch for them. But the reality is, again, is now the right time to buy or sell, and every situation is going to be different. So you have to be able to analyze that and come up with a good solution as to, are we in a housing bubble? Nobody knows until that bubble bursts. It was the same with the dot-com bubble and, any other bubbles we might have had. Okay. Nobody can predict when a bubble will burst. Look at the stock market. The stock market's had, multiple crashes, but yet look at what it's doing today. And they're still predicting, oh, it's gonna correct itself, it's gonna crash again, and it's gonna bottom out. And you always have naysayers. So your focus should always be on the positive. Always find the positive spin to anything that's going on that's negative. Okay, because there always is something positive. You just got to look for it sometimes. Day 24, what is the home inspection audit closing process like? Yeah, so talk about that. Talk about the process. You've already talked about the process of getting started and getting pre-approved. Now, you found a home. Talk about the process of writing the contract and then the next steps for the home inspection and everything that goes on from contract to closing. Day 25. Should I be a FISBO or hire an agent? A lot of people that like to do things on their own. And I actually have a FISBO guide. When I see a FISBO, I send them a copy of my FISBO, telling them how they can do it on their own. I'd rather give them something of value to help them. And so odds are that they're still going to fail and that they're going to need an agent, right? So I'd rather be the one that's there. And I always offer that, look, I bring buyers by. Let me, try to get in and view their home and know what's in the home. Some sellers will be like, well, no, everything's on Zillow. Just go look there. Um, but talk about the reasons why it's better to hire an agent than the go it alone. I did it before I became licensed. I sold my house in Oviedo when I was moving up to Delaware. I sold it as a FISBO. And then when I got up to Delaware and I became a became a real estate agent, I was like, oh my God, all the liability, the stuff that I didn't know that I thought I knew. And it wasn't my first transaction in a home. I mean, that was the fourth home that I owned. But at the same time, I tried to do it myself, and nothing bad happened. Um, but the potential for it was there. So, and I could tell you stories about that and why. I mean, it dragged on for months, and we finally got it done. But in fact, I think that was in 2002. I think the people that bought it from me are still living in that house today. Because I every once in a while I check on my past homes and see what's going on with it. Day 26. Should I sell my current house before I buy a new one? All right. So so you want to talk about that. And again, you can talk to Ryan about a bridge loan. And there's some other products out there as well that help people buy a home utilizing the equity in their current home and then make the move and then put their prior home on the market for sale. And what they have to understand is that that does come at a cost, but it's a lot less trickier than trying to do back-to-back closings because there could be a chain reaction. And I'll tell you about a chain reaction that happened to me one time. Okay. When I was selling my house in Chiliota and I was making the move to Oviedo. Okay. That was when my wife absconded, my first wife absconded with my three kids to Canada. And I had to sell the property. And the ironic thing is that the agent that I listed with, they brought a buyer from Oviedo to buy my house. And I had a court order saying that okay, it's okay for Paul to sell the house, blah blah blah. And so the agent said, "Oh, you need to come check out their house because they're putting it on the market." So, which they knew me, my situation, and what I was going to be looking for. So it was the perfect downsize for me in Oviedo. And so we set the closing for like 30 days, and I was, approved for a mortgage and all this. And um, well, come to find out that um, the attorney that was working for me did it wrong. So the approval I got to sell my house was done wrong and voided out. And so the process to get this redone took 4 months. Luckily, the other people hung in with me, but we had to go for 4 months. Now, could you imagine if I was selling my house to them and they were selling the house to somebody else and somebody else was selling the house? Look at the chain reaction that could have happened if it wasn't just a matter of us swapping houses. And so I use this story in explaining to people how sometimes the timing can really be affected by so many different things that you just don't know. You don't know what's going on in the other people's lives. And you don't know what kind of contract they have on their house that, is it going to fall through? So it becomes real risky when you're trying to time it and get your house sold and then close on the next purchase. Um, so you want to be able to have some stories like that to be able to tell. Day 27, should I get a home inspection? Man, there's probably 100 reasons why every home should be home inspected by a professional inspector, including new construction. Talk about that. Talk about new construction and why it's still important, even though it's being inspected by the building department. A home inspector comes in and looks at many other different things, and they still find code violations that the building inspectors miss. So that's a great topic, and that can go on for quite a long time. But again, keep things short. Day 28. What are our listings average days on the market in Orlando right now? Or in our case, Winter Garden. You want to know this and why. Look at the days on market, analyze that, and give a good explanation as to what's happening with the days on market. Why is it taking longer and longer for homes to sell? Day 29. How long will it take to sell my home? I love this one because, I can sit down with people and help them to understand that, look, your home should still sell within 30 days, no matter the market conditions. And if it doesn't, there's usually one reason why, unless the house is in disarray or something, there's usually one reason, is the price. Even if a house is in disarray, the price is always the thing that's going to affect the timing of the sale. If you price it right out of the gate, you're going to have that house on the contract in 30 days or less. Should be under 2 weeks, but give it 30 days, in different market condition. So what's happening these days on market, everybody's blaming the market conditions, which is part of the problem, but people don't want to price their homes accordingly the way the market is dictating they need to do. Day 30, when is the best time of year to sell a home? Again, well, what is the reason for wanting to sell your home? If you're looking to downsize, to upsize, relocate, then now is the best time because there's no way for people to time the market. There's just no way. Springtime is the biggest buying and selling season of the year, typically in most markets. However, that's usually when there's the most amount of competition for sellers. So, you got to analyze that and figure out, well, what is the reason behind what you're trying to do? What is your end goal? And figure out how you can best help them. Does this make sense? That's 30 different topics that you can do, one each day. And I'll put a link for you guys to download this. And that way you can put it to use. But look, social media, videos, YouTube, those are all the wave of the future, right? This is where we're at right now. It's busting at the seams. There's a lot of competition on there. But this is the most cost-effective way for you to get out there to generate leads and start growing your business. And this should be your plan between now and the end of the year. Okay, start putting this in motion. Start building your inventory of videos. You don't have to record a video today and post it today. You can do these in bulk. Okay, so you can sit down, take 2 hours, and like, okay, I'm going to record 10 videos, and you get them recorded and you upload it. Then you have some choices. Hire somebody from Fiverr and have them edit it for you. Save yourself a few bucks, and learn the editing tool and edit it for yourself. I'll tell you, once you get over the learning curve of doing this stuff, it can flow real simply and easily. All right, anybody can do it. So don't feel technically challenged. Just head down and let's do this. Right, figure it out, learn how to do it, and once you do, you can start doing this on a regular basis. Make a habit of it. Okay, you don't have to do it every day. What a lot of people will do is, once a month, plan out the month and do all of their social media and have it scheduled all throughout. That's one way to do it. Maybe you want to do it each week. Okay, so that you can maybe keep topics, a little bit more current on what's going on this week. So you just, maybe Sunday's a good day. Sunday afternoon, you sit down and you just plan out your social media week. All right. Or, you can hire somebody to take care of all that for you, whether it's a virtual assistant, whether it's a marketing company. But, the important thing is that you've got to be out there. And as we've talked about with social media, is there is a correct process. It's not just a matter of putting posts out there. It's like, oh, I've done 100 posts this month and haven't gotten anything out of it. Well, okay. Have you engaged? Are your posts engaging people where you're re-engaging with them on those posts? Are you engaging with others on their posts? Because that's a big part of the social media package. The algorithm picks up on that. And when they detect what you're doing and how you're doing it, they tend to push more things. So that's why it's important to stay consistent with it and stay on a particular topic like real estate. Okay, so that way you end up, in people's feeds when they start clicking on like real estate ads. What happens is they start getting things associated with real estate, and they'll get more ads. So if you're running an ad, you could end up in their feed. Much higher chance of ending up in their feed. I see it all the time. It's like I'll see an ad for the first time on my feed, and I'm like, "Oh, this looks interesting." So I'll just click on it to just kind of learn what the ad is about and everything. And then all of a sudden, as I'm scrolling up, it's like there's 10 more ads that are same topic. Okay, it just all of a sudden it's like, "Oh, Paul's interested in this." No, bam, 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 bam. All right, the kiss keeps feeding me more on that same topic. So it's just as when you go shopping. Okay, you might click on something on Amazon. Now all of a sudden in social media, you're like, oh man, I'm getting ads for that same product. Okay, so that's what's happening, and that's why there are there's programs out there now too where and this is what cookies do, right? Cookies go on your computer and it reports back what your habits are and what you're searching and shopping for. And so you can actually add some code on your website so that if somebody comes on your website but they don't sign up, you can still capture them as a lead and get their information. So, I mean, this is where this technology is going is just phenomenal, right? But what's happening is if we don't keep up with it, we're just going to be left behind in the dirt, and we need to keep up. We've got to stay with it, and that's where it's really hard because we're also trying to be real estate agents, and yet we're trying to be social media gurus, and that's where you would probably be more effective if you had somebody that you hired. Now, I don't have anybody to recommend or anything like that, but look, you've got to be able to delegate these tasks to different people to be able to take care of that sort of business for you, because you've got to spend your time in doing your prospecting and following up, showing properties, making appointments. That's your job. And it's hard to do that well when you're also trying to do the menial tasks that you can pay somebody $10 to $15 an hour to do for you. That makes sense. Kind of wish I saw more faces on here. I see a lot of a lot of circles with initials in it, but I appreciate you all being here. I hope this is helpful to you. Uh, One of the reasons I wanted to continue on with the social media is because we are going to be talking more about advertising. In 2 weeks, we won't be on next week because Valerie and I will be out of town. Um, and so we won't be available to do this. But in 2 weeks, we'll be back for our final session, which will have Nishad Khan. So we'll have an attorney on here that we can talk about. One of the topics will be about advertising, right, and how to stay out of realtor jail for that. And then we'll get deeper into it with the DBPR former investigator in February. But I want you to get off to a good start in 2026 with getting yourself set up. We did the business plan. We're not, talking marketing plan today. We're going to talk legalities. And so I want you to really focus on, getting this set up so that come January, you could hit the ground running. All right. Don't let the distractions of the holidays completely consume you. Enjoy the holidays. Still do your thing, have fun, commit to doing the things you need to do to set up 2026. All right. Because you got to remember everything you do today is for down the road. Could be 6 months, could be 9 months, but you have to start doing it and start compiling that each and every day. So, any questions on that? Comments? Any additional topics, even that you think might be good to add to those 30 questions?
I was going to say, I emailed over to you guys our weekly marketing checklist that our leadership created. And it's kind of a good way to ensure that you're doing enough activities for the week. It offers suggestions for social media, for email campaigns, that kind of stuff. So you may want to check that out, and maybe a good resource for everybody in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and that's what I was actually looking. I've got all kinds of stuff on that, and I was looking for it. I'm like, why am I not finding it? So, like I said, I've got so much stuff, um, and so that's why I want to be able to share with people. But I'll take a look at this and see.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so weekly market. Let
You know,
me.
we all kind of get in that habit of we start doing certain things, and then we're like, wait a minute, I could be doing more, and you forget about those other things you can be doing. So it's
Yeah,
kind of a cool way just to keep yourself in check as well.
yeah, absolutely. And look, we all need checklists and lists that we can work off of because if we try to store everything in our head, which I know most of us try to do, we're forgetting stuff. And then I sit
Hmm.
here sometimes like, man, I know that there was a bunch of stuff I needed to do, so I have to go in and check my task list because I
Same.
do keep a running task list of things that I'd like to do, the things I must do, I try to categorize them as best I can. But here's
So if I
the
don't write it
checklist.
down, I'm not going to remember any of it.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you want to write it down, right? And that's what we use. Oh, it's here somewhere under all this paperwork. I don't know where you gave us some really nice books, planners last year,
Oh yeah,
Jeremy,
yeah.
and yeah, yeah. It's under this pile. You have to excuse the mess. Like I said, I've tore my office apart these last few days. So, but yeah, this is a great book, and I'm using it, man. This is great for me because
Yeah,
I
I
do
swear to
need
buy a
paper and I do
notepad.
need to write it down. And a lot of times I'm writing my tasks down and then I'm transferring it to digital. Um, because I've done the handwriting, but now I want it digitally too, because then it follows me. I've got it on my phone. I've got it right here on my laptop. I also I've got another laptop and screen right here that I'll pull things up, and I'll have the calendar sitting there. So that way, calendar and tasks are sitting there, but my work is here on these two screens. So it's I keep it in front of me as best I can.
Hmm.
All right, so that's a great habit for people. But this is a great marketing checklist, Jeremy. I appreciate you sharing it.
Yeah, of course.
Um, did you email it to everybody, or did you just
I
email
just
it to
emailed it
me to
over to
pass out?
you. So I was want you to check it out first, see your thoughts, and then we can send it out from there.
Yeah, yeah, this is really good. And if I can figure out how you can actually put this in the chat, I
I
know.
was trying to figure out how to do that, and I couldn't.
Yeah, it doesn't seem to allow you to upload anything. But what I will do is, actually, here's what I'm going to do. Let me do this. Let me save it. I'm going to post a link that you guys can download it. Give me just a minute here. All right. In the meantime, any other questions or topics or things that you guys want or need? All right.
Well, I will say the dog's done exceptionally well with his head hanging out the window behind you.
He
He's,
loves it. Yeah.
I think give
He
him the
he he
biscuit, but
loves
not.
being in here with the fresh air coming in. And that's another thing. Our AC, it's like, God, I don't remember the last time I slept with the windows open and just having the windows open throughout the day. And it's like, it's actually really nice. So this might be a new habit for us. Let's see here. All right. Now, see, I lost track of what I was doing. Okay, hold on a second. Let me do that because. Okay, where'd it go? Okay. Oh, there we go. Okay.
Other
Um,
thing I was going to say to everybody is if anyone's needing any CE credits, we're having a class tomorrow, which is a Zoom platform so it's tomorrow on the 2nd at 10 a.m. It's all about fraud, and that is a 2-hour CE class, and it's free. So if anybody needs any CE classes, you can register through our website.
yeah, I think I'm registered for that one.
Yeah, then we have on the 9th, FinCEN and practice what realtors need to know about FinCEN because that still is in the works. And then on the 16th, we're having Canva AI updates.
Oh, yeah, I think I'm signing up for the Canva one as well. All right. So, oh wait, let me. Okay,
Thank you,
cool.
Paul.
You're welcome. Here comes a link. See if there's a link in the chat. See if that gets you to two documents.
Yep.
Cool. That's how we'll do it from now on. I won't bother pasting it in there. I'll just I'll share a link to the folder. And
Perfect.
yeah. And just so you know too, when you go to the meeting chat, you should also, um, yeah, so like you can see from Monday, November 19th, you can actually view it and you can get the transcript. So, if you wanted the transcript of any of our things, you can download it from the meeting chat. Okay. And you stay there. This is a ongoing meeting chat. So you can always go back. Um, hopefully you got the same thing and it's just not me, but uh, yeah, this
Oh, you can see
last
it.
Monday's. You can? All right, cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
so that's how you can go back to for, links that you might have missed or any downloads or you just want to review something. I'm trying to put the videos onto YouTube in a kind of more of a unlisted version, just so I can get it off of my laptop and put them out there on the web because my laptop I've got a terabyte of storage, both on my laptop and on OneDrive, and I'm like quickly approaching capacity. So I'm trying to get things off and uploaded elsewhere. So, which um, also utilizing a few of these attached where I can just store things on a separate drive. So all different ways to be able to keep consolidating. All right, because it's really important. I use the search bar a lot when I'm looking for stuff, but sometimes it's really hard to find things because I mean I started computing in the '90s, and every time I got a new computer, all I did was just move from one to the next, and I've lost stuff over the years, but I still got most of what was original from way back when, and so I'm actually working towards, clearing a lot of that stuff out too, things that are just totally irrelevant anymore. Um, so that's why I'm uncovering a whole bunch of things that I had completely forgotten that I had. And so we've got some amazing topics that I'm going to be bringing forward as we get into 2026. It should be a lot of fun. It should be a lot of fun because I think that I think 26 could be a good year for most of us if we put in the work, put in the effort, and have the right mindset. Okay. It really starts with the mindset. So we're going to focus on a lot of things having to do with that and open to suggestions. If there's people that want new topics or other things to be discussed, just let us know. Happy to bring in different things. Also, open to other guests that you might know somebody that wants to jump on and be a part. Happy to oblige and let them come on as a guest. Um, so any other questions, comments before we part ways? Most of us have left already, but
Um,
uh,
Jeremy,
anything
what's your
else?
website so people can go there and sign up for these classes?
So it's firstintitle.com, and you just go to resources on the hamburger button, and they'll have a list of our classes.
Great. Awesome.
Yeah,
Thanks.
and once you sign up, you should get those notifications as well. I know
Mm-hmm.
I get them, and yeah, it's very helpful. And the classes are great. So
Yeah, and
there we go.
the fencing class is important because I know Fidelity does have a lawsuit against it right now, but I have a feeling it's still going to happen, and everybody needs to know exactly how to handle their investors when dealing with FinCEN.
Yeah, you're right. I didn't sign up for that one because I had learned a lot about FinCEN over the
Hmm.
last few years, but I'm oh wait, actually I think that's happening on the week that we're away. So
We've had
um
a class every month the last few months. We'll have another one in January and February, I'm sure, because I think it's supposed to start in March.
okay.
Yeah, and I
All
always
right.
can get a recording as well. So
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Very good. Well, look, I appreciate everybody being on. And thank you for those that stuck it out the whole way. I appreciate you even more. And yeah, so we'll see you all in 2 weeks. All right, guys. Have a good
take care,
one.
guys.
All right,
Take care.
Paul, can you hang on for a sec?
Yep.
Okay, I just have a
Yeah,
question.
hold on one
All right.
second. Let me hold on. There we go.